Walker Hayes, welcome to Heart of the Matter. Great to have you here. Been a fan of yours for a
Hello.
while. So I just love the fact that you are open about being sober, open about your what it was
hmm
like for you then, and that you actually write so many songs about it now. It's really
Ah,
something.
yeah.
Tell me about that creative process and why that works for you.
Yeah, I think if you ask, I'm super just grateful to the Lord that He's given me the story, that
Mhm.
He has to tell. I'm not honestly that articulate, soul to soul. There's a lot of times when I'm with my kids or my wife or with folks like you, and I would love to say, what's in my brain and my heart, but God gave me the gift of songwriting to compartmentalize, what's going on inside, what I've been through. And honestly, it's been the cheapest therapy I've ever had. I'm so grateful that I found that form of expression. I'm oftentimes kind of bummed that I found it so late. Didn't start writing songs till my 20s, but yeah, it's always served me. It really does. Each and every day, it's a therapeutic process for me, and that's kind of always where my songs have come from. And again, I've walked through a lot of battles, addictions, loss, just struggles, and they all come out in songs, and that's definitely what I gravitate towards writing about. Things that I've actually walked through and feelings that I struggle to express. Thank goodness it's provided a living for my family, but even still, it's a very healthy exercise for me. And what a win, right? For my occupation to be a healthy form of expression. But yeah, addiction is I've been near it, kind of my whole life. It kind of runs in my family, and I picked up some of that, and I'm working on it with my kids. And so, yeah, I'm definitely vocal about that. And oftentimes it's not necessarily like, hey, I have this figured out. A lot of
Hmm.
times it's like, hey, I don't have this figured out. Anybody out there, anybody out there with me? Because that would be nice.
I think there are a lot of people out there with you.
Right, right. And there are. And that's been another blessing about just saying, I'm struggling when you say that out loud, which I don't think we're naturally born going, "Hey, I'm hurting." That's not our it's not our tendency. But when you
Mhm.
say, "Hey, oh my goodness, I'm this is I don't know, this is hard." You always praise the Lord. You always get a, "Hey, me too." And in that
Right.
that is so, man, just so helpful. I know my wife and I experienced that in our marriage, just saying, "Hey, is anybody in marriage hard for anybody? Because it'd be nice if it's somebody have ever walked through this and
Yeah.
made it to the other side." So yeah, I'm grateful that there's people hurting like me, I guess, out there.
It's funny. So many of your songs, you talk about your battle with addiction to
hmm
alcohol, the profound loss of a baby
Yeah,
that you and your wife lost,
yeah,
stillborn at full term. And yet, so many of your songs are happy sounding. I mean, Fancy Like is just a joyous song,
yeah,
huge, huge, massive hit. But I'm even talking about your song Same Drunk, which
yeah,
is all about how we're all addicted to something. It doesn't have to
right,
be a substance, addicted, as you point out in the song, to, looking better or, just the things in life, whether it be our jobs, whether
right,
it be exercise, which is a healthy
right,
thing, but we can all
right.
get sort of latched on to something and cling too tight to something being the answer for
No,
everything else. And yet the songs are so upbeat
yeah,
when you're talking about hard stuff
yeah, yeah.
and hard truths.
What you just said, I honestly need to record that and play it every morning because that's really ultimately, for me, That's what life is about, every day facing, like you said, we're what you said, we're a culture where our hearts are exposed every day, and they're
Yeah.
exposed in beautiful things. Like you said, exercise is great, but when it's your God, it's
Mhm.
not. It's not. And to me, that's a great simple example of how something healthy, our hearts take it and misunderstand it, and it makes us feel good, and then we take it to a level of damage. It's like, where's dad? Well, he's in the gym 3 hours, and his life, literally his Lord and Savior is Planet Fitness.
Mhm.
If he can even get a little more shredded, he might even come home and be a better dad, which is, and then you're like, man, that's not the healthiest thing, which it's not the exercise that's bad. Again, it's not these beautiful things in life that are bad. It's our hearts that begin to bow down to them. I mean, I know that God just wants me to look outwardly towards this little house, that we have, my wife and my kids. And one thing I feel like is I want to leave them with is life's tough. Your sin, your nastiness is going to be exposed. It's okay.
Mm.
It's all right. That's the point. There's a savior who literally is the key to everything, and that's the point. Is to analyze, be aware. Hey, I'm addicted to coffee. Oh my goodness. What I mean? It's that's the point, is every day to discover layers of that and awareness, not only to just improve our lives and to be loved, by the Lord, and to live our fullest life, but also to relate, to look at other people and their struggles, and not judge, but go, yeah, man, I
Me
know.
too.
I know it's tough. Yeah.
Um, so let's go into your story a little bit. You
Yeah.
started actually drinking quite young. You were 13 years old.
Yeah.
How was it just around and accessible? Why did you start drinking so young?
Yeah, I actually my first drink was when I was 13, and I was on a like a school playground at night with a group of older kids, older than me. They were like probably, 15 to 17, and you're 13, so much development, at that
Mhm.
age, and then there's so much insecurity at that
Yeah.
age, and I'm telling you, it just met me where I was. I was awkward, couldn't talk to this girl, and I was hanging out with older kids, just trying to fit in, and I mean, I popped that top to that Zima. And I felt, I mean, I'm one of those people who probably felt it before it even touched my lips. And I went from probably a little like wallflower to
Hmm.
life of the party
Yeah.
immediately. And sadly, it just answered a lot of, it just was like it was the key ingredient to my childhood. And I hate that, but it just, I mean, I remember that night vividly. I just went from kind of scared, timid, to seemingly, brave.
You picked up for the same reason many do, to soften the edges, a little liquid courage.
Totally.
Changes everything about yourself that you wish wasn't the way it was. But it quickly, over the years escalated to the
Oh yeah.
point where you say you were drinking all day, every day.
Yeah.
Talk
Yeah.
about that period
Y-
if you can.
yeah. This continued to, it ebbed and flowed, kind of in waves, and it seemed like the heavier life got, the more often I was drinking.
Hmm.
Had a little point in my 20s where I actually stopped for 9 to 10 months, and wrongfully said, "Oh, I figured it out. I beat it." And then honestly, within 6 weeks, I didn't know how I got home. It was one of those quick scenarios where I was like, "Oh, I guess I didn't beat that. Knock that out." But Yeah, I got to where I was very manipulative about it, lying about it, lying about how many, I'd
Mhm.
had to certain points. I mean, I gotta say, my life literally revolved around how am I getting my next one? It was my oxygen. It was
Mhm.
like, and that's it. I mean, whether I was hanging with my kids, whether I was working, um, and again, my wife, if she was sitting here right next to me, she would kindly remind me. So I still struggle with guilt sometimes, looking back, and
Sure.
and she would say, "No, no, no, you loved us, like you were function." That was the scary part is the things I was doing in the dark, I was a mastermind. I mean, I could hide it. I knew all the roads to take to not get a DUI. I knew everything to pour it in, where to go, who to drink with. I could hide it very well. I spent
Mhm.
holidays with my family sneaking off, mixing a drink and then interacting. I would show up to work. I knew where to hide it behind, a certain pallet of apples at Costco, I mean, it's like my life had honestly, it's like I was living another life that no one knew about. Not even the closest people to me, which again, it's like, wow, man, humans are very capable. Like we're
Yeah.
really we're kind of smart, you know what I mean? And so anyway, it got to a point where the rhythm was wake up, clock in at 4 a.m. at Costco. I get in my coffee. Always had a handle under the seat. Went to write after uh, two twisted teas at the same gas station. Continually drinking while I was writing. Hit a bar on the way home. Come home, drink, and I would sit on this yellow couch, with my kids and dogs, and I'd basically fall asleep with a drink in my hand, and my wife would take it out of my hand before I spilled it. I mean, I know sadly, that was her routine, was
Mhm.
his dad is Walker asleep. I better take that drink before he spills it, on him. And that was it. I mean, that was me. I mean, that was my life.
Vodka and coffee.
I
That's
know, it's not
whoa.
good. Yeah. Yeah, it's not the tastiest, but it was concealable,
Right.
nobody really ever asked me about that cup, and, I mean, I remember I even got pulled over, on the way to work one morning, and, I was just a dude with his coffee on the way to work, nobody but yeah, I mean, it was really sad, looking back, I'm embarrassed, when I talk about it, but I also there's an element of confidence that I know there's somebody listening, not liking that element of their life, wanting an escape. It's
Yeah.
it's a prison where I sincerely desired relief. I desired the keys. Like, how do you get out of this? But you also are really comfortable. It's like being in a bad relationship. It's killing you, but you're super scared of what's out there in the world without it. There's a frightening aspect to healing.
Did your wife or anybody else in your life say, Walker, you need to stop or even cut back? Or were you able to really function well enough and hide effectively enough what you were doing
Right.
that nobody did?
I want to answer this, so it can help, anybody that's around it. There's kind of two answers. One is,
Mhm.
my wife, she was very, very patient with me. And honestly, she based on the amounts I was drinking and my denial or lie, I wasn't in I outwardly was in denial, but I knew that was a problem. I was slow to admit it. Um, but she would say, "Hey, let's talk continually. Let's
Mhm.
talk. You want to talk about this?" And there was a night where I said, I spilled. I said, "I know." I know I have a problem. I know that this is problematic. I don't think you're gonna like me. Like if you think I'm messed up this way without it, I'm scared. I don't know. I'm gonna be more messed up, you know.
You were
And
afraid she wouldn't love you or like you sober?
not necessarily that. I just knew I was afraid of the raw feelings without the armor of alcohol, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
And
total
then as
sense.
far as no one ever sat me down and said, "You have a problem." To that, I'd love to add for a second, as a sober person, this I've been sober 10 years, and there's an enemy. Anytime, I'm telling it's crazy, anytime I confront someone out of just bold honesty, and I have, it gives me honestly, it gives me a lot of mercy for anyone who wanted to say something to me.
Mhm.
It's very intimidating. But,
Mm.
you run the risk of losing a friend, pushing someone away, but I have had scary, scary conversations with friends, and I've said, "Hey, man, this it's almost selfish for me to say this to you because it won't get off my back, but I have to let you know, I think you're drinking too much, and you can be mad, you can hate me, you can say, 'Shut up,' you can do anything, but I can't go one more day." And I say this to him because I look back, and at first I was a little frustrated, like, why didn't anybody say something to me? Like, who are my real friend? But it's hard. It's hard. It's very scary. It's hard to say that to someone. But I did wish somebody had just lovingly sat me down and said, "Look, let's get you some help. You need some," and honestly, I'm not sure I would have listened, but I I do I'm kind of on a mission now, I don't know if that's a part of my healing process, but man, anytime I see someone badly want to have a breakfast with them or something and go, "Look, this can be the last time you ever see me in your life. I have nothing to gain from you getting sober. It doesn't matter, but you need help," and thank I love doing that. I'm okay with doing that, but it never gets not scary, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense.
Well, the key word that you used there was lovingly, because how you
Yeah,
say that to somebody matters.
right.
If you come out attacking and saying,
Mm,
in an accusatory, judgmental, way,
right.
you know, people who are drinking too much or using drugs are doing it because they basically don't like themselves or don't feel comfortable with
100%.
themselves.
That's
So
it.
having an outsider say in a judgmental way and to be harsh, it goes straight to, it is it's the least effective thing you could do. There's a
Right.
lot of ways, but yeah. So, got sober because you finally woke up one morning. You said this in a previous interview.
Yeah.
I woke up and physically, I've never felt like this before. It wasn't even a hangover. It just felt like if I start again and do this, I might die.
Yeah.
Tell me about that morning.
Yeah. I don't know how to describe it. It just felt like physical decay. It felt like death. Like it
Mm.
just honestly, I wonder if I had poisoned myself, like
Hmm.
to some limit where I almost detested not the taste, but just all of it. I mean, I can't express it. It was honestly it was a miracle, but it was also just it just felt terrible. And I was like, I feel like if I go to this to heal this today, I might not wake up tomorrow. I just and a lot of my life at that time, it was exhaustion. I mean,
Yeah.
where I was with life, I think we had our sixth kid. I was waking up. My alarm went off at 3 in the morning every day, and I wasn't able to go to bed, on time. And so just the cycle of believing I was invincible just caught up, and then and the alcohol that, I really think my insides were like poisoned. And I think probably for a while I had been remedying that with just starting over,
Mhm.
every day. And it's almost like to reach a below normal line, I was having to consume so much, you know, and but yeah, I can't describe it. And again, I see it as very miraculous. I mean, that rock bottom, that physical rock bottom was so humbling to me that a very, very stubborn, addicted human, uh, kind of got slapped awake.
Mhm.
It was an awakening, like, hey man, you're 35 and you feel 100. It just, yeah,
So you were
it
able to
was
stop that
wild.
day?
Well, I stopped out of survival,
Did you
and
go to a doctor? Or I mean, that's
no,
a
no, I
wow.
know, no, I honestly, I'm afraid of doctors,
Alcohol
and
withdrawal can be deadly. I mean,
yeah, 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 yeah.
it's that's a very it's not
Oh,
something to
100.
how did you get
Yeah.
through it?
The first few days were just kind of a blur, almost like a traveling from this like deadly fog into clarity,
Mhm.
and I could feel it each and every day. Youth coming back, if that makes any sense, just like clarity and youthful and a remembrance of like, oh, this is fresh, like a shower, even, taking a shower, not wasted, and being like, it's so warm, I just want to sit here and this feels so good, and then belly laughs, just like clearly feeling sunshine. I know it sounds silly, but just light, experiencing a blanket, and being like, oh, this is cozy,
Mhm.
and honestly, I am 100% sure. I'm not a genius. I don't speak on this like some professor, but my addiction to sobriety came very quickly. It was like, well, I loved it. I love this. And so praise God, I was captured by the emotions and the feelings of nice things, nice feelings, and hugging Lainey, and kissing her without being hammered, and
Mhm.
things like that, and butterflies and things. But, you know, hurtful things happen, and fears came, and stresses, of work, came. And by the grace of God, I was able to communicate, with my wife mainly, and say, I got a show tonight and my fingers aren't working, and my voice doesn't feel, I'm not confident. It's like I've never sung a show sober. What am I gonna do? And I bombed. The show was terrible, but it was a victory for me. It was victorious to go, well, that's
Because you did
okay.
it sober.
Right, you did, and I remember every drop of that show. I remember finish a song and my hand instinctively reaching for a drink and being like, "Oh, it's water," uh, and I noticed it's almost like I was just drinking from the fire hose of your senses,
Mhm.
and it was a lot of it was good, but then a lot of it was heavy, and it was like, I haven't thought about my mom sober in a while, or I haven't thought about my dad sober in a while, or I haven't missed my brother. So, it was left and right, just clear.
But I mean, you say you got sober at the age of 35, and that's
Right,
like you'd lived your entire adult life drinking from
right.
morning till night. You
Yeah,
really were learning how to be a person, be a man, be a husband, be a father, be a brother, be a son, learning
exactly.
how to do all those things without that crutch of
Right.
alcohol that,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
it
big
was
deal.
wild. It was. It was like kind of rebirth, 100%. And my occupation was so built I mean, and we're Laney and I are good, but I mean, our relationship started drunk. My kids knew drunk fun dad. That's who they knew. You know, I had always written songs drunk. I was scared that I might not be able to write anything again, that I thought was good. I was afraid I'd never be able to play a show again, without almost throwing up because I was so scared, on stage. I mean, alcohol had really, assisted me doing things that our culture applauds. And so that was really hard to lose my crutches, but because then I got to go out and do these things that the world used to be excited about. Me being in love, being in a relationship, having a job, singing, writing, performing, dancing, and now I've lost my magic potion. That everybody didn't know what was helping me. But then it also, I'm a competitive person, so I I kind of enjoyed isn't the right word, but the challenge of it's not going to beat me. It's okay. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do life without it. And I think that's kind of a tendency of a lot of people. A lot of people who get sober. There's probably a moment where that battle is helpful. The day to day. Like I have a song called "Beer in the Fridge," and there was a beer in my refrigerator of my shack, and me and that beer, we duked it out every day. I'd open it, and then I don't recommend this to anyone, but I think everybody has a different story, and this beer was a very important part of my recovery. Is opening that fridge, looking at it, and just physically shutting the door.
Choosing
That's
not to drink it.
right. That's kind of what I did every day, is look at that beer and go, no, if I taste you, I go backwards, and
Yeah.
I don't like me loving you, you know, and so I'm going to shut the door on you. I'm not going to be a slave to you. You do have power, I'm weak. You can really mess me up, but not if I don't crack you open, you know. And so that was part of my healing process.
It's so ironic and so amazing and wonderful that you were worried I won't be ever be able to write a song again. I won't ever be able to perform in concert again. I won't be able to sing and dance the way, without
Yeah.
being so nervous again. And yet all of your huge career success has come after you got sober.
I mean, yeah. That is Lainey and I laugh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I hate putting. I don't ever want to put words in God's mouth, but if you look at my life, that's definitely got to make your head kind of tilt. Like, weird, you know. He was here from '04 to like you said, that year till he was 35, and all of a sudden his career kind of began to block. It's like
Hmm.
weird. Is that a cause and effect here? And I would say, yeah. I might actually do life better with clarity.
Yeah,
Without
it,
that
it
alcohol.
turns out all of your fear that you were better at writing songs.
Yes,
You were
yes,
better at performing on stage. You were better at singing and dancing. You were
right.
better at being a husband and a dad.
Yes,
All the things that you felt you needed alcohol to do, it turned out you were better doing them without alcohol.
100%,
And
a
that's the
hundred
thing
percent.
people who are, in the grip of addiction don't realize. They think I need
Right,
this in order to fill in the blank.
right.
In essence, you would do whatever fill in the blank is better without it.
Exactly. Amen. And there's no. I think that's all addiction. Even
Mhm.
back to what you said in the beginning. Even
Yeah.
the healthy ones, the things that are truly important to you, have a better chance of survival and thriving without whatever that is that you're leaning on too much, you know? But yeah, in my case, you know, work's been like that to me. Work's been an addiction. You know, obviously alcohol, you know, exercise has been an addiction, relevance has been an addiction. You know, the list goes on and on. The phone,
Sure. You've been sober for a decade. There was only one time when you almost relapsed. That was after the death of your baby. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that a lot of people in recovery often wonder what would happen if I faced tragedy? How would I
yeah,
not go back to the thing that hurt me so much just to cope with it? You write that you actually and you've said that you actually went to a bar with the intent to have a drink after your baby died. She was full term. Your wife nearly died in
yeah,
delivery. Very traumatic. And you had forgotten your wallet, so you couldn't buy a drink. So the
huh,
only reason you didn't relapse that day is because you didn't have the cash you needed or the card you needed to buy a drink.
yeah,
And then went back home and saw your wife sitting in the dark and knew instantly that that was where you needed to be, not the bar.
yeah, yeah. That was again and just such an embarrassing moment to speak about, but I also love to share it um, because I know everyone's felt this way, or you know, will if you live long enough. But yeah, I the day that we buried Oakley, it was just too much to process. You know, we looked at our kid in a casket for the last time that we would ever see her body, and she was perfect. She was in a dress, you know, with a teddy bear, and it just, you know, I'm a 37-year-old guy. I'm not that smart. You know, I love my family, you know, more than anything. Each kid, they crush me, you know, how much I want to love my kids as best as I can. And I know I fail, but you know, we're looking at this baby and we close it, and then the box, you know, we take the box and then put it in another box, and then we go out to the grave and we just put our hands on that box, and then it goes down in the ground. And me and my sons, Laney is inconsolable. You know, there's dirt everywhere. They hand us some shovels. Me and my sons just quietly, you know, we're sweating. It's in like June. We bury her, you know, till the ground is level. We stand there and we just go home. You know, nobody, I don't know what to say, you know, where it's just crushing. You know, we go home, and I mean, all I knew how to do, I just I get in my Honda and I drive to 55 South, and the largest emotion is frustration. You know,
Mhm.
it's as I want to help, I want to fix my kid. You know, I don't want them to be sad. I don't want to be sad. I want to make sense. I just want to wake up and this be a dream. My best friend, my wife, who I don't know if I can humanly love anything more. She's inconsolable. You know, I can't make her laugh. You know, like for the first time in my life, I don't know how to help her, you know, and then helping her helps me, you know. And so I'm at a loss, and I drove to 55 South, and there were three guys. I could see three guys at the bar. And I mean, honestly, I was like, I'm going. I just wanted to fight. I wanted to go in there and pick a fight with these guys, have a couple drinks, pick a fight. And it just I almost wanted them to just obliterate me, but I was going to give them everything I had, you know, just that kind of thing. And I as I opened my door, my wallet wasn't in it, and that forced me to go back home. And when I came back home that day, when I walked in, I saw Lainey by herself, lights off, just sunlight coming through the window, and I just saw her on the couch. And that was like that was better than looking in a mirror. You know, that was that was a self-reflection going, "What on earth would I do that for? Why would I take all these problems that we have
And
that
make them
are,
worse.
oh goodness, yeah, and now I'm gonna go make my wife come pick me up from jail?" You know? And so to heap on, and so at that moment, I really saw myself for some of the worst things I'm capable of. And so Lainey and I talked, and she still had to, in all her grief, she was helping me, at that moment. And she found me an AA meeting, and I went to this AA meeting. This was wild. On the way to the AA meeting, there was a massive, massive rainbow, and it didn't make me feel good. I was kind of mad at it,
You're mad at the
and
rainbow?
I was just like, "What a
Don't
stupid."
show me beauty right now.
Yeah,
I'm
it was
really
like,
having a bad day.
yeah, I was like, "I hate everything pretty right now," and I walked into this AA meeting, and it's praise God, I didn't talk to one person, and no one talked to me. And I'm sure
Mm.
I just had the demeanor of, if you talk to me, you're gonna wish you had. And I sat down and I stared at my shoe. I still remember the shoes I had on, and they had dirt on them from the cemetery. And I just thought, what a wild day. Was thinking, I buried my kid today. I'm looking at the dirt from the cemetery on my shoe in this metal chair at this weird meeting. And the first guy stood up, and he told his story. And
Mhm.
I don't remember this guy. I don't remember anything he said, but the first words out of his mouth were, "I was so angry." That is the first sentence he said, and
Mm.
that's all I remember. And I listened,
Because you
I
related to
listened.
that.
My God, it was literally like there could not have been a more for me in my life. He just said it. I was like, again, back to, hey, I do too, me too. That sentence, it just penetrated, my heart. And again, I wasn't like, "Oh God, you said the same thing." I wasn't feeling very
Yeah.
receptive right then. I still wanted to fight something. And anyway, I made it through the meeting. I left. I never said thank you or, "Man, that was really special what you said." I just went home, and we continued we continued to grieve. I remember having a talk with my friend Craig, and we cried. We basically just got on the phone and cried together. I don't think we said anything, but that was probably the closest I've come. There's been moments where I'm in a hotel and I think things like, "Hey, no one would know,"
Mhm.
but I don't like those. I know that those feelings are, praise God. I tell people about those. I'll call a
Right.
friend, I'll call Lainey and go, "Man, it's tough out here tonight," and I'll explain, to her. But yeah, that moment was a true test, like you said. That was real. That wasn't just like past tense insecurities coming back or demon. I mean,
That was a
that
real
yeah, that was like a real. I don't want to feel anything right now.
and nobody else would blame you for that. Nobody would wanna go through that, feeling
Right.
that. And yet, we are presented with things in life that we must either
Everybody.
walk through or Walker Hayes, listen, you
Mm,
are helping so many people, first of all, by just talking and telling
yeah.
us your story,
Was
but the songs you write, I can't overemphasize how important that is. You reach people in a whole different way with these songs, and so many of them about your journey to sobriety, so many of them about how we all latch on to things that we shouldn't, but you do it oddly in a song. It's without judgment. You're not the only singer-songwriter who's sober, who also writes about, you know,
mm-hmm.
that battle. And every time I hear one of you guys singing this song, it helps me. I know it helps other people who might be still struggling. It's a real gift. So
Mm.
thank you for that. I really
Well,
appreciate it.
appreciate that encouragement. That really means the world. And thanks for what you do. This is this is awesome. I think more people need to have the conversations like this every day. That's what I live
I
for.
do too. I do too. Walker Hayes, looking forward to the next big hit coming from you.
Let's go.
All right. Thanks, Walker.
Thank you.